You kind of miss the peace and quiet. You miss being able to just come and play. I'm sure you guys will hear a lot of boos and a lot of cheers today, so it's part of it. But that's what sports is.
Pull up from anywhere.
Here's Cunningham. Hearing the boos as she touches it, gets fouled by...
I want to shout out the Tempo crowd in the city. I think we've had so much fun. It's my first time being in Canada. It's a lot of our first times being in Canada. But the crowd was absolutely amazing. And, I think that's what sports is all about. You're going to get boos, you're going to get cheers. But just the fact that they're so passionate, they're loud, and they're putting on for the city, I think it's amazing. So shout out to you guys for coming out.
Sophie Cunningham stepped into what may have been the most hostile road atmosphere she had ever experienced. And while the building made its feelings obvious, she never looked uncomfortable. She didn't duck the moment or pretend the noise wasn't happening. Instead, she looked straight into the chaos, smiled, and carried herself like the reaction from thousands of people was simply another part of the night she had come to enjoy.
Oh my God!
It's mixed! It's mixed!
The reaction only grew when her name was announced again. Boos poured down from every section of Scotiabank Arena, louder than before, surrounding her before she had even checked into the game. A lot of players would tighten up in that situation. Some might look toward the bench wondering what was happening, exchange a confused glance with a teammate, or visibly show that the crowd had gotten inside their head. When an entire arena singles you out before you've even taken a shot, it's difficult not to feel the weight of it.
Cunningham out here getting booed by the woke Toronto Tempo fans. Oh, wah. Sophie burned them to the ground with some clutch three-pointers. So she got booed right there. We also got Sophie getting booed at the free throw line.
99.
Cunningham misses the second.
I mean, seriously. You got fans booing Sophie Cunningham because she supports women in sports at a women's basketball game. That's one of the more absurd things, but it's Canada.
But Sophie showed almost none of that. She moved toward the scorer's table as casually as if she were checking into an ordinary midweek game, removed her warm-ups, and prepared to do exactly what she had come to Toronto to do. There was no confrontation with the stands, no exaggerated reaction, no delay while she tried to identify where the loudest voices were coming from. She simply got ready to play. The building had made it perfectly clear that she wasn't going to receive a warm welcome, and her response was basically to treat the entire thing like business as usual.
Said Sophie Cunningham getting booed as she checks in to the game. Now, honestly, from this video, it doesn't sound too much like boos. Well, you can hear the person holding the phone boo, but it sounds a little bit 50-50. However, during the actual gameplay, you really hear it rain down.
Pull up from anywhere.
Here's Cunningham. Hearing the boos as she touches it.
And that's when you really start hearing the boos. And then she goes to the free throw line.
First, pass. Scan the QR code and subscribe today for just $14.99 a month. Cunningham misses the second.
But the good thing about Sophie Cunningham, she doesn't give a damn about your boos. Because you know what she's going to do? She's going to come out and she's going to shove it right up. She's going to stick it where the sun don't shine.
And this wasn't some half-empty arena where a few angry fans happened to be making noise. Scotiabank Arena was packed for one of the biggest events on the schedule, with enormous attention surrounding the matchup involving Caitlin Clark and the Fever. A sold-out crowd filled the building. The game carried national interest, and throughout the night, a noticeable portion of that audience directed its energy toward one reserve player every time she entered the action. That's a huge amount of hostility for anyone to process, especially considering this was Cunningham's first experience playing in Canada during her professional career.
A little bit tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
I was kidding.
Especially for the top.
Good.
I think it was because of the ketchup chips.
You know what? Yeah, I like where your mind's at on that. Maybe I should try. I heard I was supposed to try a different brand. So, but you know what? I will tell you. I want to shout out the Tempo crowd in the city. I think we've had so much fun. It's my first time being in Canada. It's a lot of our first times being in Canada. But the crowd was absolutely amazing. And, you know, I think that's what sports is all about. You're going to get boos, you're going to get cheers. But just the fact that they're so passionate, they're loud, and they're putting on for the city, I think it's amazing. So shout out to you guys for coming out and supporting.
By the way, whoever told you about maple cookies, I've lived here my whole life. I've never heard of them.
What makes the story even more revealing is what happened afterward. During the post-game media session, a reporter directly asked Cunningham whether she had noticed the crowd's reaction throughout the night. Her response wasn't angry or defensive. She almost laughed, then joked that maybe Canadians were upset because she and some teammates had finally tried ketchup chips and apparently hadn't appreciated them enough. That answer tells you plenty about where her mind was. Less than an hour after getting booed repeatedly, she wasn't sitting in the locker room replaying every insult or preparing a list of complaints. She was joking about snacks. That's important because we've all seen what these press conferences can become after a hostile night. Sometimes players insist they didn't hear anything even when everyone knows they did. Other times teams try to redirect the conversation because emotions are still running hot. Cunningham didn't appear interested in either approach. She acknowledged what happened, made a joke, answered the question, and kept moving, which has become a familiar pattern for her throughout this season.
Honestly, last year I think it did. Now I'm a little bit used to it. You kind of miss the peace and quiet. You miss being able to just come and play. I'm sure you guys will hear a lot of boos and a lot of cheers today. It's just part of it. But you know, that's what sports is. You know, I take it. I'm very blessed to be in the position I'm in. I think that's what sports is. The rivalries, the competitiveness. You know, a lot of people shy away from that. I think that's what it's all about. Like that's the fun. That's when you're out here competing and you're hearing all that. That's what you're going to remember. And so my life maybe has changed a little bit. Can't really go anywhere without anyone really, I don't want to say bothering, because I think that a lot of people are so friendly and they want to meet you. But you just have to keep your head on the swivel too, depending on where you're at. And I'm blessed to be on the platform in the position I'm in.
Then came the part of her response that deserves even more attention. Cunningham went out of her way to praise Toronto, the Tempo crowd, and the city itself. She explained that it was her first visit to Canada, that several teammates were experiencing the country for the first time as well, and that the atmosphere inside the arena had been incredible. Her message was simple. That's what sports are supposed to feel like. Sometimes you're going to hear cheers, and sometimes you're going to hear boos. That matters because nobody was requiring her to compliment the same people who had spent the evening heckling her. She could have criticized them, complained about the treatment, or framed the reaction as something that shouldn't happen. Instead, she interpreted the noise as evidence that the fans were emotionally invested. Remove every argument surrounding why people were booing her, and what remains is a player saying she would rather compete inside a building that's alive than perform in one where nobody cares. Plenty of athletes probably feel that way privately. Very few say it so openly when they happen to be the target.
Caitlin Clark fighting her in the corner. Sophie Cunningham for three. Bang. Here she is, creating her own shot. Mai Chantal set a nice screen. Sophie Cunningham 3 feet behind the line. Bang. Sophie Cunningham on the run with Ty Harris. Trailing the play. Catch. Wide open three. Bang. Sophie Cunningham. Hey, you want to boo Sophie? She's not one of these players that folds under pressure. Hashtag I said what I said. She's not going to fold under pressure. She's going to stick her chest out and go like this after she hits a three on your home court. Shout out to Sophie Cunningham.
And Cunningham didn't survive the atmosphere merely by talking confidently afterward. Her performance supported everything she said. She finished with 13 points while hitting 3 of 4 attempts from the field and knocking down all 3 of her shots from three-point range. Those baskets came with the same crowd waiting for any opportunity to let her hear it. Yet each made shot changed the energy slightly, because there's only so much a hostile arena can do when the player it's targeting keeps producing. She never appeared pressured into forcing offense or abandoning the way she normally plays. If anything, she looked comfortable inside the disorder. That fits the reputation she has developed alongside Caitlin Clark and the rest of the Fever roster. Cunningham has always been willing to chase loose balls, get physical, answer trash talk, and operate inside games that become emotional. For someone wired like that, hostility isn't necessarily something to fear. It can become another source of adrenaline. Coaches constantly talk about wanting players who can function when the road environment turns nasty because plenty of athletes perform best when everyone is supporting them. Cunningham has increasingly shown that she can be dangerous when the exact opposite is happening.
Come in. She's covering your sign.
Toronto wasn't even her first experience with that kind of treatment this year. Earlier in the season, during another road trip, people gathered near the arena holding signs connected to the controversy surrounding her, with some supporting her position and others strongly opposing it. Inside the building, the response was every bit as intense. Yet Cunningham handled that night almost exactly the same way she handled this one. She played, contributed, absorbed the reaction, and afterward focused more on the energy surrounding the game than on the people criticizing her. When the same response keeps appearing in different cities, it stops looking accidental. She's clearly made a choice that whatever comes from the stands is not going to dictate how she competes or how she feels once the game ends. Of course, there's still the question of why these crowds are targeting her so consistently. Depending on who you ask, you'll get very different explanations. A significant part of the reaction goes back to remarks Cunningham made earlier in the year concerning biological differences and women's sports. Those comments quickly pushed her into the center of a major league-wide debate and made her one of the more polarizing players in the conversation. Some fans are booing because they strongly disagree with her position. Others may simply see her as the obvious visiting villain now, someone whose name reliably produces a reaction regardless of the original controversy. Eventually, though, the motivation behind every individual boo becomes less interesting than her response to all of them. Different cities may have different reasons, but Cunningham's approach has barely changed. She keeps reacting to the pressure with nearly the same level of calm every time.
Dejanay Carrington, right? The woman who fouls Sophie Cunningham, right? She gets thrown out of the game. We just said it 2 minutes ago. It was a hard foul, basketball play, but by the basis of the rules, she deserved to be thrown out of the game, right?
No doubt.
After the game, you guys have seen the story all over the place. She tweets, white privilege. So comical. But it gets worse. It gets worse. Because Dejanay Carrington, this is when you QB Rabbit and Eminem and 8 Mile in the battle rap, okay? You at the Cranbrook. That's a private school. Dejanay Carrington's father was a former NFL player for 8 years. She went to a private school for 12 years.
Yep.
Right? She went to Stanford University.
You want to talk about privilege.
Are you fucking...
And that's where the contrast with other situations from this same season becomes difficult to ignore. Earlier in the year, Cunningham was on the receiving end of a hard foul that eventually resulted in another player being ejected. The aftermath didn't remain confined to basketball for long. The player who committed the foul later went onto social media from the locker room and posted the phrase white privilege, turning the incident into a wider statement beyond the original play. Players obviously have every right to disagree with officiating, and people can reasonably debate whether an ejection was justified. But the difference in response is striking. Cunningham gets hit, continues playing, and later praises fans who openly boo her. Another player gets ejected after delivering contact and almost immediately frames the situation publicly through a much larger social issue. Same league, same competitive environment, same pressure-filled season, yet two completely different ways of processing conflict.
There's no place in this league for that. I think the WNBA, our team and our organization has done a great job supporting me. I've had communication from everyone, from so many people across this league, and being able to support me. Going through this whole process, obviously, it could happen to me, it could happen to anyone, and I think they've done a great job supporting us in this.
How did it affect you Saturday, trying to do your job, trying to play, and having this going on simultaneously?
Yeah, obviously it's tough, but I think I have a great support system. I'm loved by so many people, and obviously in the moment it's hard to hear, but My support system is great. God has protected me in so many different ways. I've gone through so many different things in the past couple of years of my life, but I think just having this support and this love and being a part of an organization that really supports me and loves me is something that I couldn't imagine not being a part of.
So what kind of response should the league have when moments like these happen? Should officials and league executives immediately react every time controversy spills beyond the court, or should they allow competitive situations to remain competitive unless something clearly crosses a line? That's part of what makes Cunningham's approach so noticeable. She keeps removing oxygen from situations that could easily become much bigger stories simply by refusing to treat every hostile reaction as a crisis that demands escalation.
Yeah, obviously, like I said, they understand that this is the priority. Obviously, there's no place for this, and they preach. I think 2 days before they put out no hate, no speech. And obviously, the women in this league, they know that, and know there's no space for that. And I believe that every player in this league deserves to be treated with respect and want to come to work and just have fun and have a great environment to work at. So I think they've done a great job putting that out, and we're obviously just going to respond if they need to.
And Cunningham isn't the only player who has dealt with difficult road crowds this year, which makes the comparison even clearer. Another prominent forward faced loud boos in an opposing arena and afterward described the treatment as deeply disrespectful, even suggesting that racism played a role in what she was experiencing from sections of the audience. That feeling may have been completely sincere, and it's important to acknowledge that spectators absolutely can cross boundaries. If abuse becomes racist, threatening, or otherwise inappropriate, athletes have every reason to speak about it. But there are still different ways players respond when a crowd turns against them. Some leave the arena focused on the hostility and what it represented. Cunningham repeatedly leaves talking about how much fun the atmosphere created. Even when she is hearing the same volume and feeling the same attention, her instinct has consistently been appreciation rather than resentment.
I think we forget a lot of times, like, we're human and she has feelings, and, you know, there's moments that are really hard, and sometimes that's just the job you sign up for. But at the same time, like, it's okay to feel those emotions. And I just told her, like, I've been through the same thing. Like, there's been days where I've been really upset, and you can have the thickest skin in the world, but sometimes it does get to you. And, you know, I think our world is just like, we love to hate. We love to divide. Like, that's all we want to do. Like, nobody wants to see each other succeed. And I think that's a really painful thing for myself to watch. I feel like we need to do a better job at uplifting each other. And I can assure you there was no way we were losing this game tonight. And I told her that before the game. Like, there was no way we were losing this game for her. And, you know, it's tough. Like, that's my head coach. Like, I hated that our fans booed her before the game. That made me a little sick, to be honest. And you can disagree and this and that, and I get it. It's professional sports. People are going to boo. But, like, at the end of the day, that's our head coach. And we're going to ride for her, and we're always going to have our back. And that's never going to tear our locker room apart. So I just love her, and I feel for her because I know it can be a lot at times, and she does a great job a lot of times blocking it out, but there's other moments where it can get under your skin, and that's just being human, and that's just life. Like,
what's especially interesting is that even people inside Cunningham's own locker room haven't always interpreted booing the same way. After a crowd directed its frustration toward the Fever's head coach following a controversial sequence involving officiating, Caitlin Clark openly admitted that hearing her coach get booed made her feel sick. That's understandable. Players naturally defend coaches and teammates they believe deserve support. But it also highlights the unusual way Cunningham processes these environments. Clark heard boos aimed at someone she cares about and reacted emotionally because she believed the treatment was unfair. Cunningham hears thousands of people directing the same kind of hostility straight at her and responds by complimenting the crowd for creating a memorable sporting atmosphere. That doesn't mean one reaction is morally superior to the other. It means people are built differently when pressure becomes personal. Some internalize the hostility, some immediately defend themselves or others. Cunningham seems capable of turning the whole thing into competitive energy, and that particular trait may explain why these moments rarely appear to overwhelm her.
How were you able to withstand everyone and secure this win?
Yeah, you know, I want to give Toronto their flowers. What a great environment for women's basketball. It's a hell of a crowd. It's a lot of fun to play in front of. Sandy Brondello is doing a great job. Marina, and now they have Sykes back. Like, I want to give them their flowers because they're a hell of a squad. But you know what? Kelsey kind of went out for a second, so we all had to step up, knock down our shots. We weathered the storm a little bit, and so that's just part of building it and the growth that we're showing right now.
What was said in that last huddle before that final defensive stop?
You know what? I mean, when you have Marina on the team, you're never out of the ball game, and so it's really just trying to key on in her and just trying to make sure that, I don't know, that like we're just keeping the ball in front, no fouls, no threes, and I think we did a pretty good job of it.
I know you talk about the big three and their scoring impact, but what about you? I mean, 13 points, second in the league in three-point percentage. How have you been able to fulfill your role so seamlessly?
I'm just here. You know, whatever the team needs of me, I'm going to do. That's what it's all about. Owning that's what it means to be the ultimate pro, is just coming in, purpose over trying to prove yourself. And so the big three are going to do their thing every single night. And like I said, I'm just going to come have some fun, maybe inspire some young girls to come be me one.
The scene after the final buzzer may have captured her attitude better than anything she said in the press conference. Cunningham walked toward the tunnel while scattered boos were still coming from the seats, yet she stopped to sign autographs for children leaning over the railing, smiled for photos, and continued on without treating the evening like anything extraordinary had occurred. By now, it doesn't look like someone desperately trying to appear unaffected for television cameras. It looks like a player who has accepted that being disliked in certain buildings is simply part of her role. She clearly hears the reaction. She understands why it's happening. She just refuses to allow it to control the rest of her night. And when you put all these moments together, the pattern becomes hard to miss. Cunningham has walked into arena after arena as a target, sometimes because of statements she made months earlier, and sometimes because crowds have simply adopted her as the visiting player they love to hate. Other athletes facing similar situations have publicly criticized fans, connected the hostility to larger grievances, or admitted that the response genuinely bothered them. That doesn't automatically mean Cunningham was correct about the original controversy, and it doesn't mean every player who reacts differently is wrong. Crowds can cross lines, hostility can hurt, and no professional athlete enjoys becoming the villain for thousands of strangers. But there is still something remarkable about watching the same person enter hostile building after hostile building, and repeatedly choose to appreciate the passion instead of complaining about the hostility. Cunningham hears the boos, competes through them, and then walks out thanking the exact crowd that spent the evening trying to get under her skin.